The wind howled across the dusty plains of Eden 9. The red sand rolled like waves beneath the dark sky, and lightning flashed between the clouds. It was another storm day on the colony world, a place where humans had tried to build a new life, far from Earth. Inside a small metal shelter on the edge of the colony, Mark Rayner worked quietly, checking the readings on his solar relay. He was a tall man in his mid-30s with tired eyes and a calm voice. He had been a maintenance engineer for years, keeping the colony's machines alive. Life on Eden 9 was not easy. The storms came often, power systems failed, and supplies were limited. But Mark never complained. He had someone to take care of, his little daughter, Lila, who was only 8 years old. She was cheerful and full of questions about everything. Her laughter gave meaning to Mark's long, lonely days. He was a single father after losing his wife in an accident 2 years ago. Since then, Lila had been his world, and he had promised himself that he would keep her safe no matter what. That morning, when the colony announced a high-level storm warning, most workers had already gone inside the main dome, but Mark stayed behind to fix a broken relay. He didn't want the colony to lose power during the storm. He wore his protective suit and worked under the orange light of his hovercraft. Suddenly, his wrist scanner beeped. "Strange," he muttered, frowning as he checked the screen. It showed faint life signals far from any human location. The coordinates pointed toward a ridge about 2 kilometers away. He tapped the screen again, thinking it might be a glitch. But the reading stayed. 2 small life signs, weak, fading. Could be wild animals, he said to himself. But there were no known animals on Eden 9 that gave off such energy patterns. His curiosity grew. He looked at the rising storm in the distance, then back at the scanner. Common sense told him to go home. But his heart told him something else. He got into his hovercraft, switched on the stabilizers, and headed toward the signal. The journey was rough. Sand lashed against the windshield and thunder shook the ground. Visibility was low, but the scanner's blinking light kept him on track. After several minutes, he saw something half buried under a pile of sand. A small escape pod. Its hull cracked open, smoke rising from one side. Mark parked the craft and rushed out, pulling his scarf tight against the wind. The pod was clearly not human-made. It had smooth curves, faint glowing lines, and strange symbols etched across its side. He bent down and looked inside through the cracked glass. His heart stopped. There were 2 small figures inside, children but not human. Their skin was pale blue, their eyes faintly glowing gold. They were trembling, their thin arms wrapped around each other for warmth. The older one looked barely 10 years old, the younger maybe 7. They were breathing weakly. Mark's first instinct was shock. He had heard rumors that the colony scanners sometimes picked up alien signals, but no one had ever seen living beings like these. He hesitated. The colony rules were clear. No direct contact with alien life forms without clearance. But as he watched the twins shiver, his heart softened. They looked so small, so scared. He pressed the emergency release on the pod's side panel. The hatch opened with a hiss and warm air rushed out. The children flinched, curling up in fear. "It's okay," Mark said softly through his helmet speaker. "You're safe now." Of course, they couldn't understand his words, but they could feel his tone. Gentle, calm, protective. He lifted the younger one carefully. The child was light, fragile, and cold to the touch. The older one tried to resist, reaching out weakly to protect the other. Mark smiled and spoke again, slower. "I'll help you, I promise." He wrapped both of them in a thermal blanket from his hovercraft and hurried back to his vehicle. The wind screamed louder now, but he managed to get inside and start the engine. As the hovercraft lifted off, lightning flashed behind them, lighting up the pod they had left behind. Mark didn't look back. Back at his shelter, Lila was waiting near the door, watching the storm outside. She ran up as soon as her father stepped in. "Dad, you're back." I was so... Her eyes widened as she saw what he was holding. Who are they?" Mark placed the twins on the couch near the heater. Their faces were pale and their eyes half closed. "I don't know, sweetheart," he said softly. "I found them in a crashed pod. They're not from here." Lila's fear turned into wonder. She stepped closer, curious. "Are they aliens?" Mark nodded slowly. "Yes, and they're hurt. We have to help them." He quickly scanned them with his med tool. Their oxygen levels were low, and their energy readings were dropping fast. He tried giving them water, but they couldn't drink. The fluid just slid off their skin as if their bodies couldn't absorb it. "Come on, think," Mark muttered, rubbing his forehead. He checked the remains of their pod he had brought inside. Most of it was broken, but one small compartment still glowed faintly. Inside were shards of crystal glowing with blue light. Maybe that was their food source. He placed a shard near the heater, and as it melted, the air filled with a soft glow. The twins' eyes flickered open slightly, drawn to the light. Mark noticed the change immediately. "That's it," he whispered. "You feed on light, don't you?" He adjusted the room's lighting, turning on a low-level UV beam from his repair tools. The twins weakly reached toward the glow, absorbing the light into their skin. The blue veins under their arms brightened slowly. Lila gasped. "They're getting better!" Mark smiled faintly. "Yeah, I think they are." For the next few hours, the storm continued to rage outside, but inside the small shelter, a quiet warmth filled the air. Mark worked to stabilize the heater and lighting system so the twins could recover. When he finally removed his helmet and sat down, exhaustion hit him, but so did relief. He watched the twins sleeping side by side under the blanket, their breathing now steady. The younger one clutched Lila's hand even in sleep. Lila looked at her father and whispered, "What are we going to do with them, Dad?" Mark sighed. "We'll keep them safe for now. They need rest. Tomorrow I'll try to figure out where they came from." She smiled. "Can I name them?" He chuckled softly. "Go ahead." She thought for a moment. "The boy looks like an Orin. And the girl? Maybe Sarah." "Orin and Sarah," Mark repeated, smiling. "Sounds perfect." He didn't know then that those two names would change his life and perhaps the future of two species. Forever. As night fell, he sat near the heater, watching the storm through the window. The lightning flashed across the sky, reflecting in the glass. Behind him, Lila slept on the couch beside the alien twins, all three of them wrapped in the same blanket. Mark looked at them and whispered to himself, "You're safe now. I'll take care of you, all of you." Outside, the wind carried the storm away, leaving behind a quiet calm. Inside, a human father had done something no one on Eden 9 had ever done before. He had opened his home, and his heart to strangers from the stars. And somewhere, far beyond the clouds, unseen satellites began to record strange readings. 2 unknown life forms detected near human settlement coordinates. But Mark didn't know that yet. All he knew was that he had found 2 starving children who needed him, and he would never let them suffer again. The next morning, the sky over Eden 9 was calm again. The red dust had settled, and the sun rose slowly through the thin clouds. The storm had passed, but Mark's mind was still busy with questions. He hadn't slept much that night. Every few hours, he had checked on the alien twins, Orin and Sarah as Lila had named them. They were still weak, but their breathing was normal, and the faint glow under their skin had returned. Mark sat near the heater, sipping a cup of lukewarm coffee. His eyes were fixed on the small figures sleeping under the blanket. They looked peaceful now, like any other children, but they were not from this world. Their bodies shimmered faintly even in the dim light, and their hair seemed to reflect soft blue hues. He whispered to himself, "Who are you, little ones? Where did you come from?" Just then Lila woke up. Her messy hair and sleepy face made Mark smile. She rubbed her eyes and yawned. "Morning, Dad. Are they okay?" "They're better," he said. "But they need food. I just don't know what kind." Lila looked at the twins with curiosity. "They eat light, right? You said that last night." "Yes, but I don't think light alone can help them recover completely." He sighed, glancing at his tablet screen, where he had opened the data chip he found in their escape pod. Most of the information was corrupted, but a few symbols and energy readings were still visible. The symbols looked like patterns of stars and waves. Mark didn't understand them, but he noticed something, a repeating energy sequence almost like a heartbeat. He realized the twins' kind might need biolumic energy, a type of natural light energy that existed in some of the planet's wild plants. Those plants grew only in the outer zones, far from the safety of the colony dome. The colonists had always ignored them, thinking they were useless weeds. But now they might be the key to saving 2 young lives. "Lila," Mark said, putting on his jacket. "I have to go outside again." Her face fell. "But the storm just ended. It's dangerous." "I'll be careful," he said gently. You stay here with Oren and Sarah. If they wake up, talk to them, okay? They might understand your kindness even if they don't understand your words. Lila nodded bravely. Okay, Dad. Mark smiled at her courage, then stepped outside. The air was cold and dry, and the ground still carried traces of the storm. He climbed into his hovercraft and followed the map toward the wild zone. The journey took nearly an hour. The area was quiet. No sound except the wind moving through the empty canyons. Finally, he spotted the glowing plants. They grew like thin vines with round bulbs that shimmered softly in the shadows. He parked the craft and scanned them with his wrist device. The readings matched the energy signature from the alien pod. These must be it, he said, kneeling to collect samples. He filled a few containers, careful not to damage the roots, and then returned to his craft. On the way back, he couldn't stop thinking about the twins. Their arrival had changed everything. They weren't just lost travelers, they were children, and they needed someone to care for them. He didn't know what the colony authorities would say if they found out, but he had no time for that now. First, he had to save them. When he reached home, Lila ran to the door. Dad, they woke up. They were looking around. Mark hurried inside. Oren and Sarah were sitting up weakly on the couch, their eyes following the soft glow of the heater. When they saw him, they didn't move away. They watched him curiously. It's okay, he said gently, kneeling beside them. I brought something for you. He opened one of the containers, and the glowing plants illuminated the room with a soft blue light. The twins' eyes widened in recognition. They reached out their hands, trembling slightly. Mark placed a few pieces on a clean tray and set it before them. Oren touched the glowing bulb first. It pulsed brightly. And then both twins began to absorb the light through their fingertips. The air filled with a gentle shimmer as the energy surrounded them like mist. Lila watched with wonder. It's like magic, she whispered. Mark smiled. No, it's science, but beautiful science. After a few minutes, the twins' glow grew stronger. Their skin tone deepened to a healthier blue, and they even gave small smiles. They couldn't speak, but their expression said everything. Lila clapped happily. See, they like it. Oren looked at her, tilted his head, and repeated softly, Lee. Glub. Her mouth dropped open in surprise. He said my name. Mark's eyes widened. You're right. He's learning fast. Sarah tried next, pointing at Mark. He chuckled. Close enough. It was a small moment, but it filled the room with warmth. For the next few days, Mark created a special light mix nutrient for them. He used fragments of the glowing plants and added purified energy from his solar cells. The twins slowly regained their strength. They could now walk around the room and explore the house. Lila played with them, showing her toys and drawings. Oren was curious about mechanical things. He kept touching Mark's repair tools, watching how they worked. Sarah liked colors. She spent time near the window, fascinated by the red horizon of Eden 9. Mark began to understand them in small ways. The way Oren tilted his head meant he was curious, and when Sarah blinked her glowing eyes twice, it meant she was happy. It felt almost normal, like having more children in the family. But deep inside, Mark knew this peace wouldn't last. The colony had strict laws about alien contact. If anyone found out, the twins would be taken away for study. Still, every time he saw them smile, he knew he had made the right choice. One evening, Mark sat outside the shelter repairing a solar panel under the fading light. Oren quietly walked over and watched him. Mark looked up. You want to help? The boy nodded shyly. Mark handed him a small tool, expecting him to be confused. But to his surprise, Oren touched the panel and the indicator lights flickered to life. Mark stared in shock. You fixed it. How? Oren pointed at his chest, then at the panel, and made a gesture like flowing energy. You can feel the circuits? Mark asked. The boy gave a small nod. It was incredible. Somehow, Oren could sense the electrical flow, maybe even control it slightly. Mark realized their species must have evolved with a natural link to energy itself. He smiled. You're amazing, kid. Oren smiled back, a glow running through the lines on his arms. Inside the house, Lila and Sarah were sitting together, coloring on a digital pad. Sarah traced bright lights with her fingers, forming patterns that looked like stars. Lila laughed. You draw space, me too. The twins giggled softly, and for the first time, real joy filled the little home. Later that night, after the twins had fallen asleep, Mark sat at his desk and recorded a private log entry. Day 6 since discovery, he said quietly. Subjects Oren and Sarah. Non-human, possibly biolumic species. Appear peaceful. Respond to kindness. Require energy-based food. They've learned a few human words already. He paused, glancing toward the couch where they slept beside Lila. They're just children. Scared, lost, and alone. Whatever rules exist, I can't turn them in. I won't. He turned off the recorder and leaned back. The soft light from the heater glowed across the room. In the following days, life in the small shelter began to change. Every morning, Mark collected new biolumic plants, blending them into energy meals. Lila spent her time teaching Oren and Sarah simple English words using pictures and gestures. Sun, she said, pointing at the window. Sun, they repeated. Light, she said, holding a glowing plant. Light, they echoed, smiling. Evenings became family time. They sat together, sharing food and stories. Sometimes Lila would tell them bedtime tales from Earth, and although they didn't understand every word, they listened with wide eyes glowing softly in the dark. One night, as Mark watched them sleep, he whispered, "Maybe this is what humanity is meant to do, to protect, not destroy. To help, not fear." But outside the peaceful home, something stirred. A colony surveillance drone passed overhead, scanning for energy fluctuations. It recorded a faint trace of unidentified lumic activity near Mark's shelter. The reading was sent automatically to the colony command center. Mark had no idea yet that his act of kindness had already drawn attention, and that soon others would come looking for the mysterious glow in the desert. For now, though, inside that small home, a human father and his daughter had done something beautiful. They had given hope and life to two starving souls from another world. Days turned into weeks, and Mark Rayner's small shelter on the edge of Eden 9 no longer felt empty. The soft laughter of children now filled the metal rooms, bouncing off the dull walls like sunlight breaking through clouds. Lila, Oren, and Sarah had become inseparable. Every morning after breakfast, the three would go outside to play near the dunes while Mark worked on his solar repairs. Lila taught the twins how to make sand shapes and chase shadows. Oren showed her how he could light small pebbles with his glowing hands, and Sarah would trace shining lines in the dust, forming pictures that sparkled and faded like starlight. Mark often paused his work just to watch them. It was strange. Just weeks ago, his home had been quiet, filled with memories of his wife and the sound of only one small voice. Now it was alive again. He felt warmth in his heart that he had not felt in years, but beneath that happiness was a quiet fear. He knew the colony authorities would never understand. To them, Oren and Sarah were not children. They were unknowns. Something to be studied, tested, and locked away. He had to be careful. That evening, as the red sun sank behind the dunes, the family gathered inside for dinner. The twins sat cross-legged on the floor, absorbing the soft blue light from the energy plants Mark had collected that day. Lila sat beside them with her small notebook drawing pictures. "Look, Dad," she said, holding up her page. It showed 4 figures, her father, and the twins, all holding hands under a glowing sun. Mark smiled, his eyes soft. "That's beautiful, sweetheart." Oren leaned closer and touched the picture. "Family," he said slowly. Lila grinned. "Yes, family," Sarah repeated softly. "Fam." Mark's chest tightened with emotion. These two beings from another world now saw him and Lila as their family. He smiled warmly. "Yes, family." Later that night, when Lila had gone to bed, Mark sat at his workbench studying the small energy core he had salvaged from the twins' crashed pod. He had tried to repair it before, but the technology was far beyond human design. The symbols inside pulsed with gentle light, and the patterns looked almost like musical notes rather than mechanical code. He turned on his recorder. Log entry, day 21. The energy core is still active. The twins' bodies respond to the same frequency, possibly part of a biological system connected to their kind. It might also contain navigation data. He leaned closer, adjusting the scanner. Suddenly the symbols shifted and a faint holographic image appeared in the air above the core. Mark's eyes widened. The image showed a planet, lush green, surrounded by twin moons. Around it were thousands of small lights, but one by one the lights began to fade until only 2 were left. Then the hologram blinked and vanished. Mark sat still for a long moment, realizing what he had just seen. Those 2 lights could only mean one thing. "Oren and Sarah," he whispered. "You're the last of your kind." The next morning, Mark kept the discovery to himself. He didn't want to worry the twins or Lila. Instead, he focused on giving them a normal day. But his thoughts stayed heavy. If the twins were the last survivors, what responsibility did he carry now? They were not just guests. He was the only one standing between them and extinction. As he worked outside repairing a solar tower, he didn't notice the small drone hovering far in the distance, its sensors quietly recording the unusual energy patterns from his home. Inside the shelter, Lila was teaching the twins how to read simple English words. She pointed to a card with a picture of the sun. "This is sun," she said cheerfully. "Sun," Oren repeated, smiling. She showed another with a heart. "And this is love." Sarah blinked her glowing eyes and said softly, "Love." Lila giggled. "You're fast learners." Just then the door opened and Mark walked in, carrying a bundle of tools. "All right, team, who wants to help me fix the water filter?" The twins looked at each other and raised their hands together. "Help," they said in unison. Mark laughed. "Okay, let's get to work." He gave Oren a small wrench and showed him how to turn the bolts carefully. Sarah handed him parts while Lila held the flashlight. The four of them worked like a small happy crew. When the filter finally clicked back into place and clean water flowed again, they all cheered. "Great job," Mark said proudly. "You two are natural engineers." Oren tilted his head, glowing softly. "Engineer," Mark smiled. "Yes, it means you fix things. You make things work." Oren's eyes brightened. "Like Mark." That simple sentence filled Mark's heart with quiet pride. That night, while they all rested, a soft buzzing noise came from outside. A tiny red light flashed through the window. Mark frowned, stepping out to check. In the distance, he saw a surveillance drone floating above the dunes. His pulse quickened. "That's a colony scout drone," he whispered. He quickly ran inside, turned off all the visible lights, and activated the shelter's emergency shield. The glow from the twins faded instantly. "Dad, what's wrong?" Lila asked sleepily. "Nothing, sweetheart," he said gently. "Just a security check." "Go back to sleep." But inside, worry gnawed at him. If the colony picked up unusual readings, they would come to investigate. And if they found Oren and Sarah, it would be over. He couldn't let that happen. The next morning, he decided to be cautious. He packed emergency supplies: water, light plants, tools, and energy packs just in case they needed to move. When Lila saw the bag, her face grew serious. "Are we leaving?" "Not yet," he said quietly. "But we need to be ready." The twins looked at him with confusion. Sarah pointed at herself, then at him. "Mark, safe?" He smiled faintly. "Yes, I'll keep you safe, always." That afternoon, he decided to test something new. He asked Oren to touch the damaged energy core again. The boy hesitated but obeyed. When his glowing hands touched the crystal, it lit up instantly, projecting the same holographic image as before. Mark showed it to them. "This, your home?" The twins stared at the floating planet for a long moment. Then Sarah's eyes filled with faint tears of light. She whispered a word softly, one Mark didn't understand. Oren placed his hand over his heart, then touched the hologram and pointed at the two last lights still shining. He then pointed at himself and his sister. Mark's throat tightened. He was right. The twins were the last of their people. "I'm so sorry," Mark said quietly, "but you're safe here now. I promise." Sarah reached out and touched his arm. Her skin was warm and soft, glowing gently. "Mark, good." He smiled sadly. "You think so, huh?" She nodded. "Good." "Father." The words hit him deep inside. He hadn't expected that. He swallowed the lump in his throat and simply said, "Thank you." That night, Mark sat outside watching the stars. The colony dome lights flickered in the distance. He thought about how humanity had come so far, building homes on other worlds, but still struggled with kindness. He whispered to himself, "If they find out, they'll take them away. I can't let that happen." Suddenly, his comm unit beeped. It was a message from Colonel Wexler, the colony's commander. "Engineer Rayner," the voice said firmly. "We've detected unusual energy patterns near your location. A team will visit for inspection tomorrow. Please prepare your station for review." Mark's stomach tightened. Tomorrow. He turned off the comm and went inside. The twins were asleep, curled beside Lila on the couch, glowing faintly like small stars. He sat down quietly and whispered, "I'll protect you, no matter what it takes." The next day dawned calm and golden. Mark woke early, cleaning the house and hiding every sign of alien technology. He stored the glowing plants underground and switched the twins' energy lights to minimal levels. When Lila woke, he told her gently, "Some people from the colony are coming. They can't see Oren and Sarah. We have to keep them safe." Her eyes widened, but she nodded bravely. "I'll help, Dad." Together, they guided the twins into the old storage room under the floor. "Stay quiet," Mark said softly. "Just for a little while." Oren held his hand and nodded. "Mark, trust." Mark smiled faintly. "I trust you too." When the knock came at the door, Mark straightened his jacket and opened it calmly. Colonel Wexler stood there, a tall, sharp man in a gray uniform, flanked by 2 guards. He gave a stiff smile. "Engineer Rayner. Just a routine inspection." "Of course," Mark said evenly. "Come in." As they stepped inside, the hidden room below stayed silent. Lila sat quietly, pretending to read. The colonel walked around, scanning the walls. The scanner beeped once faintly. He frowned. "Strange readings. Biolumic traces?" Mark forced a casual tone. "Probably leftover residue from my repairs last week. Solar relay work, you know how it is." The colonel's eyes narrowed but said nothing. After a few tense moments, he turned off his scanner. "Very well. Everything seems fine. Good work, Rayner." When they finally left, Mark exhaled deeply and opened the hatch. The twins climbed out, blinking softly. Lila hugged them tightly. "It's okay now." Mark smiled weakly, relief washing over him. But deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning. The colony would keep watching. The next time, he might not be able to hide them. And so, as night fell, he began to plan. If the colony came again, he would have to do something none of them expected. Something to keep his new family safe, no matter the cost. The sky over Eden 9 was calm, a soft glow from the twin moons reflecting on the red sands. Inside his small shelter, Mark Rayner felt a heaviness in his chest. The colony had sent another drone last night. Their inspection had been routine, but it would not be the last. Mark knew he couldn't keep Oren and Sarah hidden forever. Every day he felt the pressure growing. The twins were thriving under his care, their bodies glowing brighter and brighter, and their laughter had returned. But that very glow would be their undoing if the colony found out. Sitting at his workbench, he thought about the information from the pod's energy core. Oren and Sarah were the last of their kind. If they were captured, their species would end. They had no home, no family, no one to protect them except him. Mark sighed and rubbed his tired eyes. Lila peeked into the workshop, holding Sarah's hand. "Dad, are they going to be okay?" she asked softly. "They will be," he said, looking at her. "I just have to make sure they stay safe, always." He made his decision that night. He couldn't let the colony take them. He couldn't hand them over for study. The only way to guarantee their safety was to move them somewhere the colony could not find. He began planning. Using the old transport shuttle he had repaired months ago, he checked fuel reserves, navigation systems, and cloaking modules. The shuttle could carry them to a nearby unmonitored system, an isolated planet where the twins could live freely, learn, and grow. It was dangerous. If he failed, they could crash or worse, but he had no other choice. The lives of 2 innocent children, and the last hope of a species, rested on his shoulders. The next morning, he called the twins together. "I have something to show you," he said, leading them to the shuttle. Oren tilted his head, his golden eyes glowing faintly. Sarah blinked slowly. Neither spoke, but they followed. Mark explained gently, "We're going on a long trip, somewhere safe where no one will harm you." The twins didn't fully understand, but they felt his tone. They trusted him. That trust gave Mark courage. Lila hugged the twins tightly. "We'll be a family forever, right?" "Yes," Mark said firmly. "Forever." He spent the day preparing the shuttle. He packed energy plants, water, tools, blankets, and supplies for weeks. He ran system checks repeatedly. Every circuit, every engine, every safety protocol was inspected. As night fell, he placed the twins inside the shuttle cabin. Oren and Sarah huddled under blankets, glowing softly. Lila sat with them, holding their hands. Mark stood at the controls, taking a deep breath. This was the moment. If the colony discovered them, there would be no going back. He activated the shuttle. The engines hummed to life and the cloaking module engaged. Slowly, they lifted off the ground, leaving the red sands of Eden 9 behind. Below, the colony lights twinkled. Somewhere far away, someone would notice strange energy readings. But up here in the vast black of space, Mark felt a glimmer of hope. The journey would be long, but as he watched Lila, Oren, and Sarah huddle together, smiling faintly in the dim cabin light, he knew he had made the right choice. No matter what challenges came, he would protect them. He was their father now, not just in blood, but in heart and spirit. For hours, the shuttle sailed silently among the stars. The twins slept peacefully. Lila rested her head on Mark's shoulder, and Mark allowed himself to imagine a future where they could live without fear, where kindness and compassion would guide the way. He whispered softly, "You're safe now. Nothing will ever hurt you again. I promise." Outside the shuttle, the stars stretched endlessly, shining like tiny lanterns in the dark. And inside, humanity's courage shone brighter, the courage of a father willing to do the impossible to protect two innocent lives. Part 5. The Message. Among the stars, weeks passed as the shuttle journeyed through uncharted space. Mark Rayner maintained careful navigation, avoiding all known human routes. He taught Lila, Oren, and Sarah how to operate basic systems. The twins learned quickly, absorbing knowledge as naturally as they absorbed light. On some days, the twins would point to passing stars, their glowing eyes sparkling. "Planet?" Oren asked. "Not yet," Mark replied, smiling. "Soon you'll have a home." Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached a small, lush planet untouched by human or alien civilization. The surface was green, dotted with glowing rivers and forests that seemed alive. Mark landed the shuttle carefully in a sheltered valley. The twins rushed out first, their small feet touching soft grass. They twirled, laughed, and glowed brighter than ever. Lila joined them, hugging both of them tightly. "This is it," Mark said, tears in his eyes. "Your new home." The valley was safe and hidden from scanners. Here the twins could grow, learn, and explore without fear. Mark taught them how to care for the plants that provided their food. Oren experimented with building small tools from natural materials, while Sarah discovered the joy of painting the glowing flowers with her hands. Mark watched them and felt a deep pride. Humanity's kindness had reached across the stars and made a difference in the lives of two innocent beings. Months turned into years. The twins grew stronger, wiser, and happier. Lila stayed with them, guiding them with patience and love. Mark built a small home nearby, blending it with the landscape so that it would be safe and hidden. One evening, as Mark repaired the shuttle systems, Lila called to him. "Dad, look at this." Above the horizon, a faint light appeared in the sky, a signal. Curious, Mark approached the console. Lila had intercepted a transmission using the shuttle's communication array. The signal was strange, encoded in a combination of human and alien patterns. Mark activated the decoder. Slowly, a holographic image appeared. A message from Oren and Sarah. The twins were older now, standing in a field of glowing plants. Their eyes shimmered brighter than ever and their bodies pulsed with soft light. They smiled, their small hands waving at the camera. The message was simple yet powerful. "We are safe. We are happy." "Thank you, Mark Rayner. Your kindness saved us." Mark's heart swelled. Lila hugged him tightly. "Dad, look. They're alive." "They're really alive." He nodded, tears in his eyes. "Yes, thanks to humanity's compassion. It's not just our technology, our knowledge, or our strength, it's our kindness that makes the difference." For the first time in years, Mark felt complete. They had faced danger, uncertainty, and fear, but they had prevailed. Humanity had proven that courage and compassion could reach even the farthest stars. That night, Mark sat under the glowing twin moons of the distant planet. Lila lay beside him, holding his hand. The twins slept nearby, their bodies glowing faintly, peaceful and safe. Mark whispered softly, "The universe is bigger than we know. But love, kindness, family, that's universal, and that is what truly matters." He gazed at the stars, remembering the stormy red sands of Eden 9, the moment he found the twins, and the long journey that had followed. Humanity had shown its best side, not through power or conquest, but through compassion, bravery, and the courage to protect the innocent. Oren and Sarah would grow up, explore their new world, and perhaps one day tell the story of the human who saved them. And somewhere, far across the galaxy, The light of their laughter and glowing bodies would remind every human and alien alike that kindness could bridge worlds and change destinies. Mark closed his eyes, smiling. The universe was vast, mysterious, and sometimes frightening. But with love and courage, anything was possible. The message from the stars was clear. Humanity was capable of greatness. Not in war or domination, but in heart, and Mark Rayner, a single father, had proven it.